here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
He played with Bobby Mack, literally had a nervous breakdown the entire round, and by the time they got to the fourth hole, he was losing by a stroke. It was, you think Tommy Fleetwood's a train wreck. You should have seen what this poor guy went through yesterday playing with him.
Yeah, you know what I want to say in this too? Like, the winner gets the entire pot of earnings.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Paige Beckers. She does it night in, night out. She's been absolutely fantastic for a Dallas Wings team that really isn't going anywhere. We'll see what happens in regards to where they're going to end up in the WNBA draft, because obviously, if they win it, they're probably looking at our buddy, AZ Fudd, to be drafted next year.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season.
Welcome in. It is in-game live game day here on the grid on a terrific Tuesday. Scott and Gabe, hour number one of our 2-hour extravaganza. Got baseball. We have some tennis, little WNBA. Cut down day. The Turk is out around the NFL, although not really any surprising news. Still looking at, in fact, for our first major upset at the U.S. Open as well. We hit a couple of winners last night. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Hopefully we'll do the same tonight. We got our SGP, Black Cloud, 5 on the line as well. So a lot to get to over the next 2 hours. What's going on, Gabe? How are you tonight?
We're doing all right, Scott. Calm before the storm. I'm looking forward to Thursday night, and we've got college football. Like I said last night, this is sort of the last week until we're going to have football at least like 5 days a week, right? Like Tuesdays and Wednesdays will sort of be the baseball days. And then we're going to have football, pro football Mondays and Thursdays, college football Thursdays and Fridays, Saturdays, pro football Sundays, etc. So a lot of stuff, but we do have baseball going on. Yankees down 1-0 right now, but you know, you can hop in, actually, guys. Minus 135. There are 2 outs. Aaron Judge is up right now, but minus 135, down 1-0. Still a lot of baseball to go in the bottom of the third inning, and Judge just walked, actually. So I actually think the Yankees are a pretty good bet at that price, Scott. I don't play a ton of parlays, but I did parlay the Toronto Blue Jays tonight with the New York Yankees. They were both minus 200. They were both a little pricey for me. I thought they were both going to win, and it turned into plus 125. The Jays are doing their part. They're up 3-0, so we'll see if the Yankees can get back in it.
Yeah, I did like Minnesota, or I did like Toronto as well against Minnesota. That Minnesota team is just dead, deader than dead, as blank as the screen we're looking at right now. So I like Toronto. The PP that, you could also throw it in there. How about the Houston Astros before we get to our 5 on the line? I saw them in nearly almost 4-1 game against the Colorado Rockies. And I get it, the Rockies stink. Don't get me wrong, but man, I am in no favor to be betting almost 4-1 with this Houston Astros team that just went through a stretch of being shut out 4 or 5 games, played a little bit better, but then they lost a couple of more. I mean, how crazy is that? The number right now, minus 375. Hunter Brown on the hill. I get it against Gordon, but man, minus 375 on the Astros. How about that?
You know what, Scott? This reminds me, and I even see 390 right now for this game. You know what I do oftentimes with hockey games in the National Hockey League? when you get these massive numbers, right? You know, the Blackhawks or the San Jose Sharks, etc. Any other team is like a minus 350, 400 favorite. I love getting, like, you can get plus 2.5 goals suddenly, right? You know, we always think about the run lines at 1.5. So at this massive price, what's plus 2.5, Scott, with the Rockies? Minus 125 only. It's not bad. Like,
That's not bad.
You know, I mean, 2.5 runs. So could they get blown out? Yeah, they could. The Houston Astros also could get nearly no hit, like we see, right? Like, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, so if I'm looking at this game, Scott, I don't really have the courage to say, okay, I'll take the Rockies at plus 290, although I get it. But I just bring it up. Plus 2.5 with the Rockies, minus 125, not too bad. Plus 3.5 is minus 210. So that's you know, that's a little high. But you get 2.5 runs in that spot, in which Rockies have been competitive on any given night. It's baseball. We see it every night.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, the Astros nearly got no hit from a pitcher whose ERA was close to 7. So I couldn't pull the trigger on Houston. Didn't want to put him in a parlay.
At home too.
And didn't play
just like tonight.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah, they were at home just like tonight.
Yeah. All right, 5 on the line. 5 best trends for the games just getting underway now. All right, we used a couple of layovers from last night. Last night, only 2 and 3. That Detroit Tigers one, that was the one that was going to put us over the top, and they end up blowing a 3-0 lead. They lose to Oakland/Sacramento. So 2 and 3 last night. Still 223 up, 154 down. So right around 70 games over 500. Not bad. So what are we going to do tonight? Right back to the well. You know, you get the same series, so you're going to have similar trends, whether they won last night or not. Let's go Pittsburgh and the Cardinals, just getting underway like they did last night. Game did go over, but it's still 14 and 4. If you didn't know last night's results, 14 and 4, you say that's a pretty good trend. So we'll go one more time under Pittsburgh and St. Louis, 7.5. Trend number 2, Angels and Rangers. Same thing. Game went under last night, but still 7-1 over last 8 meetings. If you didn't know last night's results, you'd say 7-1. Yeah, I'd play a trend like that. So trend-wise, let's go over one more crack at it, 7.5, Texas and the Angels. Play 3, San Francisco's back at home, where I tell you, yearly they've been very good at home, but man, not this season. In fact, they're 2-15, you see there. Last 17 games at home. I mean, they are just awful. Cubs, oh, by the way, are 6-1 their last 7. So let's grab the Cubs minus the 138 trend-wise against San Francisco in San Fran. Play number 4, trend-wise, Seattle. This was a winner last night. 10-1 now, last 11 at home. 9-1, last 10 against San Diego. So let's try the Seattle Mariners minus the 115 at home once again against the San Diego Padres. And that leaves us with only one, the creme de la creme, coup de grace, numero uno trend. And right back on the well we go with the Houston Astros trend-wise, fellas. 11-0 at home against Colorado. Now, they're 16-4 overall, so it's not like they're losing on the road either. 16-4, 11-0 at home. I'm not going to lay the minus 375, as I mentioned. I won't even ask you to do that for our trend-wise, because 9 of those 11 straight wins at home have come by 2 runs or less. So even for our trend purposes, Houston minus 1.5 runs, minus 170. It's still a little juicy against Colorado as our top play of the day.
I'm on Colorado. I just clicked it. I took the Colorado Rockies.
I'm on it too. I would do it too.
2.5. I did plus 2.5. So I didn't take him on the money line. Not even plus 1.5. Plus 2.5. Minus 125. But speaking of trends, everything sets up perfectly, almost too perfectly actually tonight for the Cubs and the Giants game. Boyd has been really good. All right, for the Chicago Cubs. 12-6, 2.61 earned run average, Scott. But over his last 56 innings, like you dig down deep, after his last 56 innings, and we have literally 2 feet from a grand slam. The bases are loaded for the Yankees. Stanton just ripped one off the wall, like 2 feet short of the field wall. But 3-1. It cleared the bases. So he's got a double. It cleared the bases. 3-1 Bronx Bombers right here. Nearly a slam. But yeah, Boyd, the last 56 innings, Scott, only 16 runs given up. The Cubs are hot again. They're 6-1 in their last 7 after that nice run against the Brew Crew. And you and I talk about Verlander. sometimes, pitchers have bad luck, and we think, you look at this or you look at that, and they're actually better. But he's had problems, and they've had problems when he pitches, Scott. He's pitched 22 times this year. He started 22 games. They're 5-17 in Verlander starts. Oof. 5-17. You want to talk about a significant sort of, quote, trend, but that's pretty one-sided right there. 22 times. They've only won 5 times when he's pitched this year.
Would you want him on your roster, Gabe? Because he's one of those guys, 1-year contract, Giants aren't going anywhere. You could waive him. Would you pick him up if you were Kansas City or, Cincinnati? Somebody that's, budget-wise could help us get into the playoffs.
No, I would actually not personally. No, but I see what you're saying. Does he have that sort of, all right, he is Justin. Really, the thing is, though, he's just been so bad, Scott. Like, what's going to change, right?
I know. Change of scenery? Maybe. All right, we'll look at the baseball board when we come back.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. So not officially a winner, but I always like to classify these, Gabe, as if we give out a suggestion and you can now hedge the other way or get yourself a middle. That, in essence, for us, is a winner no matter how much it turns out, right? So we talked about the Stankies, with the down 1-0. They were only minus 135, 140 or so, had a couple of runners on. Stanton hits the bases clear and double. They put 3 on the board, and all of a sudden now the Yankees Yankees once minus 135 favorites, now minus 650 on FanDuel here in New York, up 3-1. So if you wanted to grab the Nationals plus 4 and change, now you can at least hedge cover your bet on the Yanks.
Yeah, you're getting minus 135. It was a nice spot. Once again, we've talked about it, sort of gambling 101, in which you need to bet on the offensive. Now, a lot of people would have looked at that, and it was like, yeah, but there's 2 outs, and there's 1 strike already. It's like, okay, that's why you're getting minus 135 right now. You're talking about a team that was a minus 200 favorite. You're getting a minus 135, and you got 2 runners on base, and you had the big-time hitters up. It was Aaron Judge.
Right.
Like, that's another thing. It wasn't like it was the bottom of the line. You know, it was like the bottom of the lineup. Exactly. So, well, they ended up walking them. And the bases ended up getting juiced, and Stanton makes them pay.
Right,
just
Stan,
like I said.
Yeah, with Stan.
Yeah,
you had to pay, Stan. Right.
Couple of feet short of the grand slam. But, yeah, it's only a 2-run game right now. We'll see how this plays out. But good start for our parlay. I didn't really like the card all that much tonight. I don't really force plays for the sake of it. And I say that, because – it's like there's a saying, you can be in Vegas and live in Vegas and be smart for 23 hours and 55 minutes. That 5 minutes of insanity can get you, right? And you don't need to be in Vegas to do that, right? So I still have my slip-up, Scott, but I've gotten better at just sort of like, no, I don't need to bet that game. I don't need to bet this game. I don't, So tonight I looked at the baseball card. I sort of said, all right, I like the Blue Jays and the Yankees parlay. Nice price there. I do like the late games though, and once again we talk about the Dodgers, Scott, and their under run that they're on. We took it last night. I took the Dodgers to win the game and the under in the baseball game. Got a little scary, especially late. Banda had guys on, and there was nearly a run to get the push, but they end up winning 7-0. Tonight you got Kershaw on the hill, and it's amazing. Like Kershaw, like he's pitching so well, you wouldn't know. Like, yeah, this guy's going to retire, right? I mean, he's 8-2 right now. Then they win when he pitches, and he's just been so good. It's incredible to see. He's 8-2 on the season, guys. 3.31 earned run average right now. He's 7-2 in his career against the Reds with a 2.1 ERA, and we've seen this with Kershaw, guys, where you'd figure, yeah, whatever, dude. Kershaw's been in the league for 20 years, so who cares what his record is against the team? We saw it earlier, Scott. Remember I brought it up? Yeah, he's like 11-2 against San Diego. Boom, pitch well against them again. Right? Like, he's lived up to it like this year. He really has. Martinez can be a little shaky for the Reds. You and I often talk about how the Reds don't get swept, so they lose last night. Dare I say, it sort of sets up perfectly. Dodgers win tonight. And then, you can come back with the Reds to avoid the sweep after in the last game of the series. The Dodgers got 11-5 in Kershaw's 16 starts this year. So there's a lot to like about the Dodgers tonight.
Yeah, I mean, and you may say, well, it's the Dodgers, Scott. Anyone's going to have a winning record with the Dodgers. No, that's not the case. Hey, they're a 500 baseball team, basically. Not basically, they are, since the All-Star break and even before that. So the fact that he's
been one of the rare ones that win. They've won his last, he's won his last 4 starts. It sounds crazy, Scott, but it's almost like the old days where it's like, all right, good, Kershaw's pitching tonight for us. Like, we're back to those days. I mean, he's pitching that well right now.
They're going to have it, if he continues, right? We still got another month, but let's just say he continues to pitch like this. I mean, you got to put Glasnow in there, right? You got to put Snell in there, and you're starting rotation.
I bring him out of the pen. He's got the mentality to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, would it be 3-starter or out of the pen? Someone's got to go with the pen.
Out of the pen, and he comes in real spots. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're coming in, Clayton, in a 2-2 game in the 6th, bro. Middle sort of when we take the starter out. You know what I'm saying? Can you give us 3 innings? Can you give us 2-3 innings here? Because, you look, depends on their health. The big debate is Ohtani, actually, in Dodger Nation, Scott, whether Ohtani can be trusted to pitch in the playoffs. Because he really hasn't pitched great, if you'll notice. He's been okay, right? He's been okay. But whether you want him to or not, Dodger fan, he pitches in the playoffs. Like, you don't upset your star, Scott, right? You know what I mean? It's like he wants to pitch, he's pitching. Like, he'll be fine. That's why I say,
and I don't think Kershaw would make a stink at this point, right? I think he's past that.
No, he's good for the team. No, he's going to do whatever's the best for the team. And dude, the way the Dodgers starting pitching is, Scott, Kershaw might have to start 3 games in a 7-game series. You can't predict this. Dude, Walker Buehler was on the hill when they won the World Series last year in relief. Right? The Dodgers really do go into 1 inning at a time. They'll use starters in games. They'll move guys around. They are very aggressive in the playoffs with their pitchers. But they signed so many pitchers this year hoping not to have to do that. Right? So you got Glasnow, you got Snell, you got Ohtani, you got Kershaw, as it is right now. And then you got Sasaki, who really, he's still a kid, Scott Sasaki, and he really didn't pitch that much. So he's in Oklahoma City right now rehabbing. I don't know how many starts he needs, but I saw he pitched the other day in Oklahoma City. So he's close to coming back as well. So the Dodgers will be in a good position at least and have choices with their arms.
Yeah. So I was a little surprised they got rid of Dustin May. That didn't make much sense to me, but I kind of had it penciled in as one of those bit of relievers, but works out.
They're
well,
ruthless, the Dodgers, Scott. They'll let you go.
Yeah.
Even if you're part of the family. You know what I mean? Be like, yeah, you've been with us forever, Dustin. Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler would die for the Dodgers. Seriously, that guy bleeds Dodger blue. They were like, yeah, we just can't bring you back. Jack Flaherty, he's from L.A. He goes there. They win the World Series. He was like, I hope I come back at the parade. Yeah, sorry, Jack. The Dodgers are cold. Yeah, they're like, sorry. It's not happening. It's not happening.
They got their hardcore, and that is it.
Yeah.
That is absolutely it. So, Mets and Phillies, no score, bottom 4. We'll get to that when Mets are threatening. We'll keep you posted here on the Grid.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course, we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're 1 game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the Grid. Our number 1, third segment. Time for our SGP Same Game Parlay. Right now.
I think there should be some music.
Coming up.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think so.
There it is. Dun, dun, dun.
You know what? They're probably in stunned disbelief because we came that close to hitting one last night. And in a little gripe of mine with FanDuel, which does a pretty good job, right? So we would have won our SGP last night, Gabe. We had Seattle. We had Raleigh with the home run. So we had Raleigh getting a hit. We had Raleigh getting an RBI. We had Louis Arise getting a base hit. So what didn't we win on? We didn't win on one bet that I put in there that bumped it up to like 9-1, and that was Bryce Miller getting under 3.5 strikeouts. Under normal circumstances, I would have adjusted that and bumped it up to 4.5 or even 5.5, just to bump the odds on the parlay up. But they don't allow you that on adjusted strikeouts. They only allow you to go up, not down. So I can't go under 4.5 or 5.5, but I could go over 4.5 or 5.5 at plus odds, but not under. Sometimes they offer that, sometimes they don't. They didn't last night, and that cost us a nice 9-1 ticket. So we're going to go right back to the well tonight. Long story short, we'll use Seattle again against San Diego. We'll use Raleigh a hit, Raleigh an RBI, same thing. Louis Arise a base hit, and I'm going to be stubborn. This is where the German and Polish and Irish, Italian all fighting inside me. Give me right back to, this time it's Luis Castillo under 4.5 strikeouts. Seattle starting pitcher, as San Diego is one of the best non-strikeout teams. Add it all up and it pays almost 11-1 plus 1080.
You know what? I look at this game tonight, Scott. I do like the Mariners. Last night I liked the over, and I don't like baseball overs that much. Yeah, we had a ton of runs in the game last night, and I don't see, Scott, why there won't be runs again tonight. I think there's going to be runs in this game. I think the Mariners win. Dylan Cease, you look at his home road splits, he's not the same pitcher on the road, number one. So you look at Cease, 0-8, guys. Dylan Cease, 0-8. I would imagine. 0-8 on the road with a 5.65 earned run average on the road. Castillo is better at home than he is on the road because we talk about Castillo a lot when he's on the road. He's not that great. He's not having a great year. Let's just be honest. Right, he's okay. Like, even at home, he's 4-4. His ERA's around 4. Like, he's not like great at home. He's just worse on the road this year. He's given up 9 runs in his last 2 starts. People don't talk about it, Scott. You and I brought it up. Like, the Mariners are the top over team in the league. Right? People don't think of the Mariners in overs, but the Mariners just put overs up, guys. 7-3 in their last 10. Just outright wins. The Mariners are pretty good at home. They are 24-11 in their last 33 home games. And we get him in a pick'em range tonight, Scott. I think this is a number, but you talked about it last night, and you said, how come Seattle are bigger favorites? We sort of discussed it. Tonight, once again, I mean, the game is a pick'em, and it's almost like the odds makers think Dylan Cease is the same pitcher as he was on the White Sox 3 years ago. He's not. Like, I don't, this is another one. Like, that, we could be wrong. Like our Mark Lawrence once famously said, always respect the odds maker, but I don't get this line. I do, we're falling for the trap maybe, but I think Seattle is the play tonight. And I think the total is a little light at 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mark respects them a little bit too much for my liking. But he always does. He always says, well, it's not my responsibility to make the lines. It's just to accept the lines, right? I go just the opposite. It's kind of my responsibility to critique the lines a little bit. So, yeah, it's a little weird, right? I mean,
just beat them. I like Mark's style. Just beat the line. I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
Unless I open up my own sports book, I got to bet the numbers that they deal.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I would think they would be a little bit bigger, but it is what it is. So let's go Seattle tonight and root them on. I didn't use the over-under. I was a little worried about San Diego, more so than I was Seattle. I figured Seattle would get their 6 runs, but I just basically wanted to go right back to what it was last night. This way, if it doesn't hit again, then I could move on. But if it hit and I didn't have it tonight, then I really would be kicking myself. So Mets don't score. They had 2 runners on bottom of the 4th inning. So I like the over. I must say, I thought we'd get a bunch of runs. It was 8.5 with Benaya on the hill. I thought they would give up some runs. And so far, we got no score. Philadelphia to New York Mets. Who'd you like in this one? Anybody?
I was leaning with the Phillies, but I didn't pull the trigger. I generally stay away from Met games, Scott. I just do.
They're crazy.
Just because of the nature of the games. I don't need the stress. I mean, a Met game, who knows? You don't know who's going to win a Met game in the 9th inning, let alone like before the 1st inning. Right? Like that's the way I look at it. So I lean with the Phillies tonight, though.
Yeah, we're open. Somebody score, and then we'll go the other way. That's basically
exactly. Someone get up 3-0. We'll take the other team plus runs.
Yeah. Loud Esmond coming up next. Do some NFL talk with him.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18 and 17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Gabe, hour number one. We'll put the baskets and the tennis and the baseball aside for a sec. Do a little college football with a busy week this week. Little NFL as well with a good buddy, Loud Esmond. HitThePick.com. It is HitThePick.com. Oh, yes. Kind of a crazy Thursday slate of college football, including a game starting, 5:30, Loud? Why not start there? How about a little Boise State versus South Florida? Where are we going with this one?
Well, Boise State, I mean, everybody knows how good Ashton Chanty was, but I went back and looked at the numbers, and he was the offense for Boise State. 2,601 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns, most in the nation, second most in FBS history. He also had 569 receiving yards, which made him the second best receiver on the team from the running back position. So he was the offense for Boise State. We're going to find out right away just how much they miss him. I think it's going to be a lot. Now, they're going to play in Florida where it's going to be 90 degrees, 70% humidity with a high chance of rain and thunder showers. Look, this USF team, they played last year without their starting quarterback who got hurt early in the season. Byron Brown is dangerous. If you go back to the season before, he had 3,200 passing yards, 800 rushing yards. Those are stats that are comparable to the Heisman winner Jaden Daniels. So this is my upset pick of the week. Take the Bulls with some plus money on the money line.
Should be a fun game. UCF like to play at a quick tempo. A good point, Loud, as far as the heat is concerned. Going in here, playing in August, not an ideal situation for Boise State, but I think Boise State's offense will be fine. Their quarterback is back, and they have a good offensive. Like their running backs will put up numbers again. They're going to dominate in the Mountain West, but it is a lot of points in this game to be laying. It's a tricky spot. South Florida are always a live dog, Scott. I can't really disagree with the pick. I think Boise survive, but I think Boise survive a higher scoring football game.
All right. One of the worst teams in the nation, Loud. Akron versus Wyoming. Interesting selection of all the games you're going to go here. Which side?
Well, look, I like picking obscure games for a logical reason, which is the games that are going to get the most action, the most money, are the lines that are going to be the most scrutinized. And I think where the public it gets taken advantage by some of these followed lesser bet on games, and let's face it, who's going to be watching or betting on Wyoming at Akron when there's a bunch of other games? Look, I just like these opportunities, and I see an opportunity here. There's been a big line move for a game that, like I said, nobody's going to care about. This line was minus 9.5 for Wyoming, and has been bet down to -7, in some places minus 6.5. And I think the problem is here, Wyoming, I don't think can score enough on anybody to win by a big number. I think that's the acknowledgement here, is not so much belief in Akron, but just not belief in Wyoming as a favorite of almost 10 points to begin with. So it's gone the wrong way as far as I'm concerned, but I'm still comfortable taking Akron points against a Wyoming team.
Yeah, that's one of those there. If you lose your bet, you're saying, man, I'm betting money on Akron? Really? But okay.
That's the type
of
game,
they're
Scott.
getting points. Yeah.
You bet on a Tuesday night when there's not other games to bet. That's that's the thing. I hear what you're saying. Like, you have all these options, but you feel like a real smart guy if they cover, right? Because it is. Yeah. And Loud made a good point. I mean, without a doubt, as far as the scrutinized games, odds makers aren't panicked. They're not walking in. The sportsbooks managers aren't walking into the sportsbooks telling their guys, yeah, keep me up to date on the movement of that Wyoming game, right? When LSU and Clemson are playing and Ohio State and Texas are playing, and you have all those TV games. So I think Loud raised a good point there. It's just tough to trust a MAC team going on the road like that, but I would agree, Scott, with Loud. I agree with you, Loud, in the sense that, even 7 points, tough to trust the Cowboys to lay 7 there. But bold pick, I'll pass, but I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I don't have the line on this one. I'm here in New York, but Minnesota and Buffalo, the Bulls, had a couple of halfway decent years there, but they're back to being the Buffalo Bulls. Where we go, Minnesota, Buffalo.
Look, Minnesota's going to win this game, but I'm playing the under here. It's a low total of 45. 6 of Minnesota's last 7 home openers have gone under. They're a run-heavy team. It's early in the season. The unders tend to score early in the season. Why? Offenses make a lot of stupid penalties. Offsides, not procedure penalties, man downfield, those sorts of things. And Buffalo does have a strength on defense. They return a ton of stuff, 9 defenses from last year.
Nope, I think we lost.
Red linebacker, sure thing. Crawford is great at getting, and Kobe Stewart has. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
We're losing you, Loud.
New end Kobe Stewart has the upside. Oh, I don't understand why. Sorry,
we're gonna have to let Loud go here. He's cutting out too much. Cutting it out.
Yeah. So
what, Scott? Minnesota is supposed to be good this year. Minnesota is supposed to be good this year. I am by Minnesota standard. I'm not saying they're winning the Big Ten, but this could turn into a beatdown. If there's one thing about Minnesota, Scott, they're a beefy team. Like, they're big. They're going to wear Buffalo down in this game. Sort of like in the sense that we saw Kansas and Fresno State, right? Like, it's just sort of the course of the football game. The size just sort of mattered. Kansas were able to sort of bully Fresno State, and that's, Minnesota are going to be able to bully. Minnesota aren't the type of team you wake up in the morning saying, hey, I want to lay 17.5 points with the Golden Gophers, right? Because they're not the most explosive team, but over the course of 60 minutes, Scott, I think they're going to pulverize the Buffalo Bulls here.
Yeah. It's one thing also, Gabe, about running teams, right? If you're a passing team and you're up 4 touchdowns, fourth quarter, what do? Yeah, you run the ball. You go against the grain. Let's get the game over with, right? Maybe even late third quarter. But if you're a running team, I've always said this, if you're a running team, what are you going to do? Start throwing the ball? No. You're going to continue to do what you do best, and that's run the ball. You're going to run your offense. So I know the general philosophy is, okay, if it's a running team, then you know what? That won't be that many points. But I disagree. I tend to say, you know what? No, I think that running team, Army, Navy, all those teams that just run the ball, they don't start throwing the ball.
Michigan,
they
Scott.
just do what they do best. Michigan, yeah, same thing.
Michigan and New Mexico.
Down.
They're playing Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern time, NBC. Michigan are laying 34.5 points. A lot of points. Michigan are going to run the ball a lot. How the hell are New Mexico going to stop Michigan's ground game, bro? Like, they're not. And as you stated, they don't take the pedal off the metal. It's a good point, Scott, because if you're an air raid team, you know, like Scott said, yeah, we're up. We'll start running the ball, even though we don't run the ball very well because we don't care. Your team that runs the ball, the backup running back wants a touchdown on Michigan, Scott. The third string back wants a touchdown when he gets in the game in the fourth quarter. And they like, it's week one. No one takes the pedal off the metal. So, I think Michigan are going to rush for like 5 touchdowns. They'll throw for a couple, but they'll just run the ball down New Mexico's throat. The Lobo point total, Scott, 7.5. 7.5. I don't think they get there, personally. I'm going to bet the under 7.5, and I'm also going to lay the points with Michigan at 34.5. So it's sort of a key number under the 35 here. I think they win like 48-3 or something. 51-3, 48-0.
They had a good quarterback last year, but he transferred. I forget where he went.
Yeah, Utah.
It was a decent.
Dampier,
yeah,
Utah.
Yes, exactly. Right. So, the chance of New Mexico having back-to-back good quarterbacks, probably not too good.
And they lost their coach, Scott. The guy coming over from Idaho. It's like, good luck with this. Like, they're going to get murdered.
All right, more coming up.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Gabe, hour number 1. We got a little tennis, a little WNBA, a little baseball, doing some college football preview. Take a peek at the NFL. Cut down day today, Gabe. I didn't really see anybody, we had the Kenny Pickett trade yesterday. Shedeur Sanders apparently made the team. He's on it now anyway. Things can still change, but it looks like he's going to be the third string quarterback, losing the second string to Dylan Gabriel, which is big because Gabriel gets the dress, and then Shedeur would just be the emergency quarterback. But I didn't see any. I was looking for like some big move, big name, and a couple of smaller name quarterbacks wise, but nothing crazy for me. Did you see anything today that kind of surprised you?
No, nothing blockbuster at all. So, and you and I sort of expected that DeVito would get released, even though he played well in the preseason. I expect he'll get picked up rather quickly. No. You know what I did? Our boy Hartman got cut, right? So I sort of got a chuckle out of that at his expense, and we wish him the best. Sam Howell keeps getting traded. Carson Wentz, that's sort of flown under the radar a little bit, Scott. Minnesota Vikings, they didn't like what they saw with Sam Howell, and they got J.J. McCarthy. They like J.J. a lot. J.J.'s coming off of a surgery. And if there's, one place that basically it's plug and play at the quarterback position, it's Minnesota. But them bringing in Carson Wentz, sort of, I thought that was interesting and sort of solidifies their, Carson was just with KC. But for me, Scott, I'm still sort of in college, right? We've got the big college, and next week it's sort of NFL. So I just wanted to bring up, we got these college games on Thursday, but win total bets, right? There's a couple of teams that I like that are playing, actually. So Rutgers are an example. Rutgers are playing Ohio. They're laying 15.5 points. I don't want to have to sweat out the point spread here. I'm just taking Rutgers to go over 5.5 wins on the season. And you look at their schedule, it's very manageable. There's no reason why they can't. They went 7-6 last year. They went 7-6 the year before. Last year, we had to get it went to the last week, Scott, to get the 6th win. I think we can get it before the last week this year. So get a head start on this one. Just for the record, I like Rutgers over the 5.5, and they kick off on Thursday night. And another team that I like, you and I talked about, Missouri. That's 6.5, Scott. Ridiculously low. And also, guys, Missouri plus 700 to make the playoffs. I know it's only Central Arkansas they're playing, but they win this game, and they win by 40 or 50 or something like that. They're going to fall a plus 500 type of deal. Like, the odds do change. Like, what I mean? It's not just going to stay the same. It's going to, it'll go down a little bit. So we love the Missouri over 6.5 wins. They kick off on Thursday night, Scott. And Friday night, a team, fun game on Friday night that we'll be on for some of it. We come on at 8. Auburn and Baylor, Scott, Friday night. Everyone's talking about, Texas and Ohio State and Clemson and LSU and Miami, Notre Dame. This Auburn-Baylor game is a pretty fun game on Friday night. And I think the Baylor Bears are good this year, Scott. Their win total is 7.5. It's like minus 105, so there's no juice. Over 7.5. They won their last 6 regular season games last year. They steamrolled through the Big 12 to end the season. And then they lost in a bowl game to LSU. They've got a lot of returning starters. I think that Sawyer Robertson, their quarterback, he won't win the Heisman, but he's 60-1, and he could put up some pretty big numbers in this offense. I like Baylor over 7.5, guys, and they play Friday night, Scott, against the Auburn Tigers. And the game is in Baylor, Waco, Texas.
Yeah. I was going to, when we did some over-unders last week, I was going to have them on my list, but I knew you were going to have them on there, so I didn't. But I liked it too. Dave Aranda, pretty good coach. He's had his ups. He's had his downs. He's been through the wars. So I respect him. Took over a program that, obviously was in the doldrums. Then Matt Rule came, and then he tried to follow Matt Rule, which is never easy. Had that Cinderella season. So I like him, bottom line, as a head coach. I have enough respect for him to get the job done. And you're right, got a lot of guys back. They're primed to make a great run. I tell you, the Big 12, it's an interesting conference game. It is so deep, as we've talked about. And I really love the Texas Tech team. I'm going to be riding them, but teams that I think are going to be bad, like Utah, or other guys are saying they're going to win the conference. I mean, it is so that conference is so crazy, so deep. I just really think there's going to be a 3-win or a 3-loss rather division winner, and I'm assuming that's still going to get them into the college football playoff. But I'd be surprised if there was one team that emerged unscathed, which as deep as that conference is.
Texas Tech spent $28 million on players in the offseason, guys. It's like, the highest paid team in the country. We'll see if that pays dividends for them. But you're right. Listen, this Big 12 is wide open. The Utes were a bit hurt because they wouldn't let that Cam Rising go. He wouldn't leave, Scott. Like, he was there for 12 years. And he kept getting hurt. Like, they had to tell him, leave the campus, kid. You're 30 years old. You got to go. I saw a good tweet the other day. Someone said, someone said in the old days you were a loser if you went to college for 7 years. Yeah, I'm still here 7 years later. Now you're a college quarterback, Scott. Diego Pavia, like, he's going to stay forever. You know what I mean? These new dudes. Another one, too. UNLV, we talked about that game. I thought that Idaho State could play with them a bit. Hell, I didn't think it was going to be 31-31 in the fourth quarter, but Idaho State easily covered that number. The game went over the number as well, and the Idaho State Bengals guys racked up like a ton of yards on UNLV. Their quarterback threw for over 400. They went up and down the field on the Rebels. Rebels survived as 30.5-point favorites, but Scott, they go on the road now to Sam Houston State. Sam Houston State have a game under their belt after playing at Western Kentucky on Saturday. It's going to be a different element playing at home for them on a Friday night. Tough spot for UNLV to be laying double digits in. Another one of these games where I think UNLV could survive, but like, a 35-31 type of game. They just won 38-31. Same type of game, Scott. I think UNLV are overpriced again in week 2. Or week 1, I should say, because that was week 0.
Yeah, and that's a short week too, Gabe, right? I mean, and they're going on the road. Yeah. It's a short week for Sam Houston State, but at least they're at home versus UNLV, which has to go on the road. Albeit to Texas, it's not going cross-country, but still, you're playing on a short week. That's difficult to do.
With a lot of new players.
Yeah. All right, Black Cloud Play of the Day coming up next.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the Grid. Final segment, hour number 1. Time for our Black Cloud Play of the Day. All right, we're going to use the WNBA game later on tonight. Los Angeles versus Las Vegas. LA's game did go under last time, breaking a streak of 11-1, 12-1 to the over. Not going to play that, but I do think we're going to get a ton of points. The over-under's into the 177, 178 range. So if we're going to get a ton of points, Gabe, then we got to go Alyssa Thomas over 23.5 points and rebounds. She's a double-double machine. She's got the most double-doubles in WNBA history. She's the most triple-double. I mean, she's just a point machine as well. So I don't know how she doesn't get to 24. Even if she didn't get 10 rebounds, she's got to get 8, 9, right? So, and if she doesn't get all those rebounds, she's got to get 16 points, 15, 16 points in a high-scoring game. They're at home. But I really like this one a lot. I generally like the Black Cloud plays. That's why they're Black Cloud plays. But this one in particular, but the only thing, as we always say, is a blowout. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Phoenix in LA should be a really good game. Like I said, the over-under's in close to 180. So over 23.5 points and rebounds, Alyssa Thomas. What do you think?
I can't disagree. Listen, LA are a good team, guys, to play the opposing star players, player props, because they don't play defense. They're not a very good defensive team. And I've been riding the wave with them, obviously. And we've talked a lot of WNBA. We talk about the LA Sparks. They're a big-time over team. They had that run where their games were getting into the 200s. And on the season, they're a robust 24-10-1 to the over on the season. But, and there's a but coming here, Scott. They've slowed down a little bit as of late, right? They've hit the wall, and when they get beat up, they've hit the wall a little bit. And if you'll notice the history between these two teams, it's been to the under. Like, these two teams have played to the under. 5-2, 1-7 in the last 8 in the series to the under. I go with the Mercury tonight, too, Scott. It's one of these sort of rivalry or sort of one-sided, sort of series is the Mercury, 6-0 straight up, 5-1 against the spread their last 6 games against the LA Sparks. We saw the Mercury lose to the Aces, Scott. I think the Mercury show up tonight, which is good for your Alyssa Thomas play, but I think they show up. I like the Mercury to win this game tonight, actually. And I know we've bet on the Sparks at times at home. But it doesn't mean I'm going to take them in every game that they play. I think Phoenix beat them tonight. It's a big game for Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm looking at her numbers. She had 19 points and 5 rebounds against LA back in May. That's the only time I think she faced them this year. She must have missed the other games. They played twice. But as far as the bet is concerned, she averages 16 and she averages almost 9. So, they're giving you a 2-point discount on this. She comes out to be 25. I'll still take my chances. Like I said, 16 points.
And here,
it should be a good game. Any kind of luck we get an overtime game.
And here, Scott, too, I was going to say, if you look like their scores, 85-80, so they got to 165. 89-86, they get to 175, still under tonight's number. You had a 95-81, still would have stayed under this number. But you and I talk about the ridiculously stupid WNBA schedule. How is it that they haven't played since June 1st, Scott? We're going into September here. You only have 13 teams in the league. And you're both in the West Coast. You're both in the
two Western Conference teams. Yeah.
You're like Phoenix and LA, Scott. You haven't played all year, basically. We haven't played in 2 months. What the hell are you doing? You're seriously. Well, what the hell are you I talked about that commissioner, man. They got problems in that league, I gotta tell you. Quality of play is good. Fans like it, but it's the commissioner. She's got to figure things out.
It's almost like they say, here, you got an hour, come up with the WNBA schedule. And they're like, really? Oh, okay. Phoenix and LA, all right, let's play them 3 times this week. And, New York and Connecticut, all right, we'll have them play 3 times next week.
Remember the Wings and the Liberty? That was ridiculous. They played 4 times in 10 days. It was like a playoff series. Yeah.
It's stupid. There was a game the other day we talked about. This was going to be the 3 matchups in 16 days, whoever it was yesterday we talked about. It shouldn't be that difficult. With 13, you said it, there's 13 teams. What are you doing playing, these teams so clumped together like this?
Infrequently, especially if you want to build a rivalry. Isn't Phoenix and LA, wouldn't that be like a rivalry?
Yeah.
Mercury and the Sparks, like it's,
New York,
how do you build a
Minnesota.
rivalry? Yeah.
Yeah, you kill it by doing something like that. All right, fork it up. Hour number 2 coming up next.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers are playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Sparks. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Busy hour number 2. Plenty of baseball, some tennis, little WNBA, and some college football talk coming up. But we closed out hour number 1 with a little WNBA talk. So we'll throw that out to our next guest who's on to talk a little college football. That is our good buddy Rod Zawacki. PickDawgz.com. That's Pick, D-A-W-G-Z, PickDawgz.com. And Rod, I know you're a big WNBA guy. So what do you think? Alyssa Thomas, can we get her to get 23.5 points in rebounds tonight? And do you like anyone in the game?
Yeah, I think she can get those points and rebounds tonight in the game. I might be against you guys. I like the Sparks here. I'm going to take the home dog here in this one. I'm not a fan of the Mercury out on the road, what I've seen. And what have we seen from the Sparks offensively over the last 5 games? They're starting to put some points together, scoring a nice chunk of points over the last 5 games where they're averaging about 91 points a game, hitting 47% of their shots. Still, which is definitely way better offensively than what I've seen from Phoenix over their last few games. So I think we got a track meet. I kind of like an over as well. I think we see plenty of offense in this matchup tonight. I like an over, and I like the Sparks to pull it out. And yes, I do think you do get your player prop there, points and rebounds. I think she gets over that as well.
I wouldn't be betting the under. You can only bet it over in Spark games. But let me just remind everybody, the last time the LA Sparks beat the Phoenix Mercury was August 23rd, 2023. All right, so like they just they don't beat them, Scott. Right? It's been a while. Like they've been close games though. Like 85-80, 89-86, 85-81, 84-78, 92-78, 87-68. Whatever. We can go, back, but like this year they haven't played like the ridiculous schedule. They played May 21st and they played June 1st. Right, but that's my deal with this. That it's just been so one-sided with the Phoenix Suns, but it should the Phoenix Mercury. It should be a close game, but that is the only game. And I'm going to take a look at some of these props too, Scott. But it does feel like we talk about it. The LA Sparks don't play defense. There's no reason why Alyssa doesn't go off. I'm going to play the double-double with her tonight.
How about a little college football, Rod? This Fresno State team, boy, they let me down big time because I was on the over against Kansas. And it looked great to start. First drive, touchdown, and then that was it. This team is awful. Generally, I like playing on teams that have a game under their belt versus teams that don't. They're taking on Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern laying 2.5. How do you see that one turning out?
Yeah, see, for me in that one, I was on Kansas in that first half of that game last week, and I liked what Kansas returned. So I was definitely, and I'm not an E.J. Warner guy. And it each came true to form, throwing a couple interceptions. And then he tried to get out and bootleg and try to run the ball. And whew, that was not a pretty picture with E.J. Warner trying to run the ball. 4 attempts with, minus 23 yards in those. He's averaging a minus 5.3 yards per rush so far as E.J. Warner. And if you can't get your QB to get out there and run a little bit, that makes your offensive line going to be really tough. I believe this line opened minus 1.5, and it jumped the other way real quick after they seen the results of that Fresno game. I like J.C. French here for the Georgia Southern. I think he's got enough receivers and weapons around him that he'll have no problem moving the ball. That offensive line is going to need some work on Fresno to be able to give E.J. Warner some time, and I think it's going to take a few games. That's why we've seen such a line move. I like Georgia Southern here. Lay the 2.5. I think they win by 7+ here in this one this week.
Any other games for Thursday? We'll look at if you're going to bet Georgia Southern and Fresno, I'm guessing you're well-versed then. So how about the Thursday slate? Any games stand out for you?
Yeah, looking at this week's early slate, you know what? That moved another one that's moved. I'm sitting with USF at the plus 10. This thing's moved down a whole lot. I think that was just too many points. Everybody remembers what Boise did last year. Rolling right along in that game, and it's moved, right? It was 10, 6.5 you can get. Yeah, I'll grab USF plus the 6.5 on that one. I think Boise takes a little bit of a step back from what we've seen with Boise last year. Give me the dog and the points there on Thursday night.
I think the points are too high, but I'll disagree in a sense. I think Boise are one of the stone cold locks to make the playoffs. There's not a lot of teams where it's like, yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. Right, Boise will. Like, they're going to stomp through the Mountain West. And, like, how many, this is a big game for them, obviously. Like, I don't think they lose, though. I think, personally, they survive. I think the spread is too high. But, Scott, if you look at Boise's schedule, who's going to beat them? Like, the only team, like, really is Notre Dame. Right? They go to Notre Dame. And I think that game's kind of a toss-up, and that game won't hurt them, like, in the big picture because they win the Mountain West. And if they have that loss to Notre Dame, it's like when they lost to Oregon last year by 3 points. And just my take, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal. They didn't lose Genty, but Boise State played, like, in the conference that they play in, and Boise State were Boise State before Ashton Genty got there, right? Like, Boise are going to be fine. It's just I think South Florida are good, so I'm not disagreeing with the pick, but I do believe that Boise win the game, and I think Boise go to the playoffs.
I think Boise kicks up on the last-second field goal. Boom, last-second field goal. They cut down the thing and kick a field goal late in what should be a pretty good
we'll see if the kicker makes it because the Boise have missed kicks over the years if we're going back.
They definitely have missed a few big kicks in Boise.
Should be a fun game, though. Should be a fun game.
Yeah. How about year number 3 for Matt Rule and my Nebraska Cornhuskers, Rod? A little bit of respect in that they're almost a touchdown road favorite, albeit over Cincinnati, but still that's kind of like, okay,
Arrowhead.
Are they going to win
Game's
and
at
cover
Arrowhead.
this game, and where do you see them?
Neutral field, guys. So Arrowhead Stadium this game. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So it's actually a Nebraska home game. Never mind. You're right, Gabe. Good call. My bad.
So it will be, and I like Nebraska. So I think they can push Cincinnati around. And we've known the Cincinnati team to have some pretty good offensive lines, pretty good defensive lines, but not here against Nebraska. Third year, I think Matt rolling his team along. I like what we've seen from Nebraska down the stretch last year. They had a middle blip last year that wasn't the prettiest of football that they played. But as they came down the stretch last year, they started to play some pretty solid football. And I think you lay less than a touchdown here, right? It's -6.5, I see. So that means some money's coming in on the Cincinnati, on the Bearcats team. And I don't think this Bearcats, the same Bearcats team we've seen over the last couple seasons that have put up a fight at times and maybe even upset some teams at times. I don't think so. I think Nebraska comes in and gets this win and the cover for us here in this one.
Yeah, I think they roll them. I think Nebraska will roll Cincinnati in this. But I would imagine, too, by kickoff, when people really start betting this, it'll hit that 7 again, Scott. But I think it's a good spot for Nebraska to get the season going. Their win total is 7.5, so this is one of those absolutely positively have to win games. But I agree with Ron. I think Nebraska and the trenches are going to be too much, right? It's just too much. You're laying a touchdown here. We don't even have to win by 14-17. But I think the Huskers roll them.
And that's going to be, in essence, a home game. Nebraska, in Kansas City. I think you'll get some Cincinnati fans, but that's what it's designed at. Quickly, you got a CFL game you like too, right, for Monday night?
Yeah, absolutely love the Monday Nighter. It's the home and home with the Labor Day, right? So me being an Elks fan, hey, I like what I've seen from the Elks. They're starting to turn it around defensively over the last 3 games. I know they haven't been the greatest, but we're looking like we can play some defense. And hey, we're scoring a few points. Give it to Calgary. Hey, they're playing some defense as well, but too many points. This comes down to a field goal, close one. Give it the Elks.
You got it. Bob Zawacki, pickdogs.com. Great job, Rod. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, man.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Gabe, hour number 2. We got a possible upset at the U.S. Open. It's pretty big on the women's side, although really isn't. And I do a lot of crazy things, Gabe, with the U.S. Open. Like I'll put in 5 players that are minus 20 to 1 and get the odds down to like 8 to 1 and make the bet. But I got to pat myself on the back. I said, you know what? This Coco Gauff, I don't trust her. Boy, she's had some real bad performances in majors over the last 6 months or so. I said, I'm not going to do it. She was like 18. They see 18 to 1. And point being, she's tied 1 set each with, I won't even try and pronounce this woman's name, Agila Tomljanovic. Something like that.
I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I think that was pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So tied
she's minus
400
now.
Just begun the third set.
I think she's going to win still. She's minus 450 actually now. So the tennis moves so quickly. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Scott. I would not have laid the price. We did last night. We put Alcaraz in the parlays to try to, just bury the parlays down. The Tigers ended up screwing us of all teams last night. Late in the game.
Yeah.
The one positive, though, I have the Athletic season win total over 71.5. So it's softened. I'm like, all right, at least I got, I'm a step closer. It looks like they're going to get there, actually. It looked like they wouldn't, but the A's have been playing pretty good baseball over the last month and a half without people really noticing them. As far as the Blue Jays and the Twins are concerned, guys, the Twins they're down 4-2. They just had the bases loaded with nobody out. They ripped a line drive into right field. It looked like it was going to be trouble. I think it was Barger, great catch. And, yeah, the runner from third tagged up and scored, but the runner on second got doubled up. So Minnesota scores the run. The Blue Jays escape, though. They're still up 4-3 right now. They're laying minus 650. Pretty big number, Scott, to be laying. But Minnesota only have 2 more at-bats coming up at plus 425. Kind of thought the Brew Crew were to play tonight. Brew Crew are rolling right now against the D-backs. Rangers rolling the Angels, Scott. But how about that Rocky pick? We talked about it before the game started. I didn't have the courage to take the Rockies on the money line, but I said when you get these big opportunities, man, you get plus 2.5 runs, plus 2.5 goals, etc. at a hockey game or a soccer game or whatnot. When the other team's like a massive favorite, you get a real good opportunity, plus the points, so to speak, plus the run, Scott. So far, so good, up 4-1. And that plus 2.5 sort of softens the blow of a Houston comeback, too. Like, you know what I mean? Houston can still come back, and we can still win our bet. Pretty crazy. Yeah. Houston are plus 190 right now, Scott, only. Plus 195, down 4-1.
Yeah, bottom of the fourth only, but this Astro team, that's why I said, we had them in our 5 on the line, because Trends, they'd beaten them 11 straight, but we both said at the time, like, I would not be betting Houston. I really wouldn't. So not even laying the run and a half it down at that minus 170, which was crazy. 4-1. You think about it, Gabe, if you had the goal, this happens every once in a while, right? Colorado, a monster underdog. They're leading. Pittsburgh, probably not a monster underdog, but they were an underdog against St. Louis. They're winning big, 8-2. White Sox, a slight underdog against Kansas City. They're leading 4-0. I mean, if you put some of these teams, I know the Nationals and Yankees, you probably would have used the Nationals, but they're down 5-1. But, you put the top 5. I like to do this every once in a while. When I'm up and I got some money to burn, I'll take, like, the 5 top underdogs and put them in a round-robin 2-team parlay and just blow. There's 10 different combinations, and, depending on how much I'm up. And just hope that tonight's the night where craziness happens, which does from time to time. This would have been a pretty good night to do that.
I'm gonna practice what we preach, and we talk about the Mets games all the time and how just erratic and up and down they are. I just took the Phillies plus 2.5, so they're losing 5-3. We're down 2. We're losing 5-3, and I got the Phillies plus 2.5 minus 145. I'll take my chances that there's more chaos in this game.
Yeah, and you got the lead. So if you get 2, you said you get 2.5 or 1.5.
I'm getting 2.5, so I'm down by 2, and I'm getting 2.5. So I'm right now as it is now. Yeah, I'm up half a run. Yeah.
Yeah. 6th inning, bottom of the 6th inning. Oh yeah, there's plenty of baseball in that goofy series. Oh, absolutely. That's why it was 0-0 through 4, and then it was 5-3, just like that. Blink of an eye.
You can get You can get the Phillies plus 525 on the money line right now. That's just too high not to take, only down 2 runs.
Yeah.
That's my point, guys. The Phillies are down. It's 525. I know it's a little over in the game, but it goes to show how high the number was in the Colorado game. But they're up by 3, and Houston are only plus 195. We see you get pretty good numbers with teams down 1 run, let alone 2 runs or 3 runs. All right, look at the Phillies now. So the Phillies, guys, still have 3 more at-bats coming up, 9 more outs to give. Anyone else to watch a Met game knows. I mean, the 7th, 8th, 9th, you know what I mean? Anything can happen in this game. And you're getting plus 525, Scott, with the Phillies right now. I'm gonna click a little bit on the Phillies money line as well.
Yeah. You know what I like tonight? Another one of my hunch plays like we had with the Angels last night against Jacob deGrom. I played the over Arizona team total 3.5 against Mizorowski. He's not actually been good since the All-Star break. He said 3 starts.
You're not there yet. You're at 3.
Yeah, I'm at 3. I'm not going to count as a winner just yet. Top of the 5th, I got a runner on second base with looks like 1 out. And you know what? I like the over 13.5 right now too. You got over half the game left. And that Arizona bullpen's going to come into play. Mizorowski's still in there, but he's allowed, or the teams that he's played have scored 4 runs in each of his last 3 starts since the All-Star break. He was a great story. I had a little issue with him making the All-Star team, but whatever, no big deal. But he's not been the same pitcher, Gabe. You know what? Once these teams get a little bit of a book on you, it takes a few starts. All right, this is what he likes to do. This is what he likes to throw. Blah 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 blah. You do your homework. And, it's not quite the same after your first 4 or 5 starts. So he struggled a little bit. That's why I thought Arizona was going to – I didn't think they were going to win the game. I didn't want to take that chance anyway, but I did like them getting 4 runs tonight. I like playing over 3.5 team totals. 4.5 pushes it, 5.5, yeah. But 3.5, I'll take my chances sometimes.
Yeah, 3.5 is a fair number to get the 4 runs. Yeah, Mizorowski has hit a wall a little bit. I think as well, it's sort of like football rookies, right? They're not used to playing the 17 games, right? So I think Mizorowski might be hitting the wall a little bit now, just fatigue.
A little bit. All right.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course, it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers were playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're 1 game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Any thought? Welcome back.
Looks like his any thought got lost in space. We'll get Scott Wetzel back here with us on this Tuesday night. So 4-3 in Toronto right now. Minnesota have a runner on first base, actually, with nobody out. And they just had the bases loaded in the last inning, so the Toronto Blue Jays are definitely tempting fate. And as I just stated a couple of minutes ago, the Blue Jays were like massive favorites, only up a run. They're still like massive favorites. Like they're minus 370 right now, and you can get the Twins at plus 270. I don't like saying, oh, you're going to blindly bet underdogs or this or that, but in game, like we do this in hockey all the time. When a team is down a goal, you're getting like plus 250. It's like it's one goal. Like it's literally like one touchdown, one play away, like one score away from being tied. And you have a similar situation right now with the Minnesota Twins. They're plus 240. You got a runner on first. They're only down a run. Now listen, I'm on the J, so I don't want them to come back to Twins, but they could, right? They could. We see it. We see it all the time. So Royals up down 4-0 to the White Sox right now. Shout out to our boy Johnny Roast Beef in New York, who actually I saw he tweeted earlier. He tweeted me and others here at the Grid that he was taking the White Sox tonight. Bold, but so far fruitful. Still some baseball left. We're going to the 8th inning right now. The Royals are plus 3.5, plus 145. They're plus 1650 on the money line, but they are down 4 runs. Sort of a night of blowouts again and sort of mini shutouts midway through. Texas Rangers are up 6-0 on the Halos tonight, but it's hard to take this Texas team seriously, like in the big picture. I do take Toronto seriously, and I don't want to mush this and talk about how great Toronto is right now because I have them in a parlay with the Yankees, and Little's on the hill here. He just hit the first batter in the kneecap that he faced, and now he just walked the second batter. It looked like it could have been a strike. It wasn't. So now he just walked it. So we got first and second for the Twins now with nobody out in the top of the 8th inning, and what? All right, guys. So I think we got Scott back, but I just said a couple minutes ago, I'm like, man, these guys are like plus 450. They're only down a run. While you were gone, Scott, I said they got a runner on first base right now. They're only down a run. There's nobody out, and they're plus 270. Now they have runners on first and second with nobody out, and they dipped all the way to plus 125. Like, it's wild baseball. Like, a couple of at-bats will change everything, guys. That's like, so it's worth it to jump in on, oh, God, this is getting wild. That's pretty bold of the Twins, Scott. They just tried to steal third base. They just tried to steal third base. You got first and second. Nobody
out.
Blue Jays are there's nobody out. The Blue Jays pitchers are falling apart, Scott. Like the last inning was bases loaded. They were lucky to get out of it, only giving up a run. You got first and second. He hit the first guy. And then the second guy, Julian, he walked. Except, all right, they didn't steal, so I just sort of saw bang, bang. He tried to bunt, Scott. They tried to bunt the runners over. He missed. The catcher missed the ball. It went to the backstop, bounced right back to the catcher, and the runner tried to take third, and he got thrown out.
Oh, my goodness.
One of those weird
like
sequences. Yeah, it's one of those weird sequences.
Yeah, like the runner getting thrown out the inning before, when Minnesota had the bases loaded. Right? And now you got this.
Do you imagine if you're Minnesota's manager, you're just like, God, you guys are idiots. Like your own team. Yeah, you're like, I asked you to bunt. You missed the bunt. Turns into a wild pitch. It's like you missed the ball. Like, you know what I mean? The ball goes over everyone's head. And then you jackass, you get thrown out at third base. Like, you can't make this up. They're challenging it. The Minnesota are challenging the play at third now. He looks out to me.
It's sad, Gabe. It really, because I don't mind bunting. I go conservative, although I don't know if the pitcher, falling apart, I wouldn't have there. But these guys are so bad fundamentally.
They can't do it, Scott. You read my mind. They can't do it. They can't do it. So I'm with you. I used to get so mad. I'm like, for the love of God, guys, just lay a bunt down and move the guy over. Like, they can't do it, Scott. And you know what? It leads to chaos when you try to do it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They pop it up. Yep. You know what I mean? They pop it up. They foul out. They miss. You got a guy thrown out. Like, it turns into a disaster somehow when you ask these guys to bunt Scott. You can't do it almost because they can't do it. Because they can't do it.
It's amazing. I watched the Brewers in their streak, and they would bunt. Even they would like screw it up.
Turn into an adventure. It's an adventure.
Yeah, just hit away.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Lost Pages. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers were playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now it's 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Live, Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Gabe, hour number 2. We'll put the baseball and everything else aside. Continue our football talk. A little NFL football. Cut down day today. Gabe and I really didn't see too many surprises, but let's find out if our next guest has some and some insights on some of the games week number 1, which is now obviously less than 2 weeks away. Rohit Panaya, covers.com for all his plays, all his picks. What's going on, Rohit, Scott, and Gabe? How are you today, bud?
Great. Just excited for the start of the season. I mean, college football starts, already kind of did, but, we got that coming up, and then NFL right after. Some great games coming up.
Yeah. Let's start
There really
NFL. Just jump in there, Gabe. Just wanted to give you a chance. Did you see anything today, anything surprising, cut down day for you, or any impressions?
There wasn't anything that really jumped off the page at me. I think, Christian Wilkins probably getting released by the Raiders is probably up there. Hearing officially that the Saints are going to go with
Shane Spencer.
Rattler, a quarterback. That's the news of the day. Spencer Rattler, a quarterback. I guess the question, let me ask you, Rohit Scott, are the Saints going to be the worst team in the NFL, or are the Cleveland Browns going to be the worst team in the NFL? Because I think that's, in my opinion, that's the two teams that I would say that they're going to be the worst tems. Rattler's athletic. He can run around. He's going to make plays. He's also going to turn the ball over a lot. They don't have a lot of talent around him. Flacco's, going to get hurt, guys, and then Dylan Gabriel is going to get murdered in the NFL.
Yeah. But
who would you say, Rohit's going to be the worst team?
I think it's just going to come down to a defense. I mean, the Browns at least have a decent defense, so I think they're going to be able to get off the field sometimes, make some games close. I mean, they're playing in a really tough division, but I think they're going to have some shorter games where they can maybe sneak away with a win. Whereas the Saints, I think their defense is going to be really bad, especially in the back end. Meta retiring Hurts, And then their two best defensive players are probably Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis, who are both 36 years old. So if those guys have any sort of drop off at all, the Saints could be a bottom 5 defense as well. So really bad on both sides of the ball. So I think the Saints are probably the worst team in the league.
Surprised what the Browns did quarterback-wise, trading Pickett and keeping Sanders number 3, not number 2 even?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you got to have an eye to the future. And at this point, I think, they wanted to keep Gabriel and Sanders and kind of see what they have with them. And I think it makes sense. I mean, looking forward to next year, I mean, I see they're probably going to get a quarterback next year. I would expect them to. But I think at this point, I think we know that Pickett is not the franchise quarterback he was drafted to be in Pittsburgh. And I don't think the Cleveland roster would have been a good fit for him anyway.
Think of how stupid the Cleveland Browns are, guys. Like, literally think about that, Scott. They just took 2 quarterbacks in their first 5 picks, and we're already talking about, they're going to need a quarterback next year to draft.
Yeah.
That's why they're the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Like, that's why they're the Cleveland. Because they can't win. Mm-hmm. And the best case scenario for them not to be the worst team is, like you said, Joe Flacco doesn't get hurt early, completes a couple of passes. Their defense, they do have some talent on paper. It's just that division is such a bitch, right, for them. Yeah. But New Orleans are just bad. And I think New Orleans want to be bad. Maybe get Arch Manning, right, and everything could fall into place for them.
Yeah, if Arch Manning even comes out next year, right? I mean, that's the big question now.
Yeah. But if the Saints have the number 1 pick, I think he could. Like, if the Browns had the number 1 pick, I think, who knows even if he's worthy of the number 1 pick. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I don't want to be one of those people.
Maybe he doesn't want to go to the Saints.
First.
He didn't go to Ole Miss. Right? Maybe he says, you know what? I want to blaze my own path. If the Saints have the number 1 pick, I'm not coming out. I want to go to the pick
Carolina
team
Panther
next year.
I want to be a Carolina Panther.
Yeah. All right. I always, let me throw this out.
What about that game, actually, guys? But we got Texas, Ohio State. What's your pick, Ro? What do you think of that game?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Texas, Ohio State. Who you got?
I mean, Ohio State's at home, but I really just like Texas. I think Texas is the best team in the country. I think they just have so much continuity on both sides of the ball, some really impact defenders there. So, short line, I like them. I like them as soon as the line dropped and you're getting them at a little bit of plus money. That line's come in a little bit. I like the under as well, but the under's come in a fair bit. I think I got the under at 50.5. I think it opened at 52.5.
Yeah. It's come down.
Yeah, it's come down a fair bit, but at this point, I think you steer clear of the total because you're not getting the best number. But I think Texas money line, I think, still makes some sense because this should be a battle. And if they are really the best team in the country, which a lot of people think they are, they should be able to win even on the road here.
Are they the best? How do you see this thing playing out, college football wise?
I do. I think the Longhorns are the best team. I think it's a bit of an interesting season because, Georgia, Alabama, those guys are not the best team, at least coming into the year compared to past years. You got Clemson, looking like they might make some noise as well. But I think Texas and Ohio State are probably the 2 best teams in the league. Ohio State, I think they have the more explosive receivers, better secondary. But I really like the Longhorns' ability to control the line of scrimmage, and I just like a lot of the playmakers they have there as well. So I would say Texas small edge, but starting the season off with what I think is a game between the 2 best teams in the country. I mean, doesn't get any better than that.
Well, another one I was going to say, as good of, could be as fun of a game. Could it be more points? LSU Clemson, guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like everyone. Who does like Brian Kelly besides his family, like his father that's becoming like on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like does anyone? Oh, I love Brian Kelly. Like who? You know what I mean? But so it pains me to say, this could be the year if they ever play defense. Their schedule is kind of manageable. It's interesting though, guys. There's a lot of love for Clemson in this football game. It peaked at 4. I'm seeing 3.5s right now, Rowan and Scott. What do you think of this one, Rowan? If you look at this game, it's a non-conference game, so it's not life or death for the teams. But the winner of this game really gets a nice start in the national championship conversation, the playoff conversation, the Heisman conversation, because there's quarterbacks in the country besides Arch Manning and Nussmeier. LSU's an offensive factory now. Klubnik's got his 3 wide receivers back. His offensive line is back. He could do some damage. And then you get NFL draft pick stock, guys. If you look at the NFL draft odds for next year, Klubnik and Nussmeier are right there, at the top of the board, along with Arch Manning right now. Such a big game with so many ramifications, Rowan. And for the coaches, despite all the success for Kelly and and Sweeney in their careers, they're both under pressure all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this should be a great battle, but I love the fact that you mentioned that, we might see, the number one pick come out of this game, but I think someone that's not getting maybe enough credit for that is TJ Parker. I think TJ Parker could make some noise. I mean, I don't necessarily think, especially if Arch Manning comes back for another year, I don't think we're necessarily going to have a quarterback go number one next year. And I think Parker is the best edge rusher. We've seen a lot of edge rushers kind of take that number one mantle over the years. Parker is incredibly talented, great pass rusher. He should have a monster year for Clemson, especially playing on that line. So I think that's probably going to be the difference maker in this one. I just think Clemson, both these teams, great offense. But Clemson just has some fantastic players on defense, too. You've got Parker. You've got Woods.
Oh, Peter Woods is a stud, too. Yeah. He's another one that could be a top 5 pick of the draft next year. Yeah. Peter Woods.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just such
Any other games you like this weekend? Rohit?
College football, I haven't really broken down too much of the college football season so far, to be honest. I'm still kind of on the CFL train trying to get ahead of that week 1 stuff. So haven't looked at too many.
Labor Day Classics.
Yeah.
I don't got to admit it. Labor Day Classics this week. Scott, this week in the CFL, it's a weird schedule. We got a game Sunday night and 2 games on Labor Day, actually. So we'll have a game on Monday night. The cool. Elks and the Stampeders. I like all 3 underdogs this week, Rod. The Bombers and the Riders, that one, the Banjo Bowl, whatever. I don't love the Bombers team this year, but getting 5.5, 6. Same with the Argos. You're getting 5.5, 6. Should be a track meet, and you're getting 7 with the Elks. I like all 3 underdogs as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Elks in that spot. I think we're already seeing money come in on them because they're down 6.5, I think. But they always tend to play really well in that rivalry. They're playing better defensively over the last few weeks too. And Fajardo at quarterback. I mean, I think I think the Stamps are in a bit of a letdown spot anyway after that win against the Riders. So I love the Elks as a dog. I think I'm leading with the Ticats though, minus 5.5. And yeah, I don't know about that Bombers Riders game, but I can definitely understand the Bombers.
All right, well, this is some NFL talk with Rowan coming up next.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course, we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers were playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're 1 game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Gabe talking a little football, a little college football, now some NFL with Rohit Panaya. Covers.com. Check out all his plays, all his picks. One of his NFL plays, week 1 coming up, and then a week and a half, our beloved Miami Dolphins. How about that? I liked you, Rohit, but I like you a little bit more. Dolphins basically pick them against the god-awful Indianapolis Colts. Yep. And I think you like Miami, do you not?
I do. I mean, this is just a buy low spot on them. I mean, coming into the last couple of years, people were talking about them as a contender. Now everyone's down on them. I don't have a ton of faith in Tua staying healthy all year, but he's healthy for week 1. Those weapons are in place for week 1. So I think they're going to be able to put up some points. Don't think the Colts are going to be able to keep pace with them, especially with Daniel Jones at quarterback. So, I think being able to get them at plus 100, I think right now, is pretty good value, because I think this is a team that's just simply better than the other team, has a better quarterback, and, at least in week 1 is healthy. So, yeah, give me the Dolphins in week 1 for sure.
Man, I'm a Bills fan, so I'm not liking the conversation that we have going on here, gentlemen. But I will say I agree with you. And this game sort of caught my eye as well already, Scott and Rohit, in that, all right, Scott, as a Dolphin, they might have had the most negative training camp in preseason out of any team in the NFL. Even though it hadn't been the worst, you know what I mean? But from, the joint practices have been bad. They're getting pushed around. They're terrible. Their own practices are terrible. The inmates are running the asylum. It's out of control and all this type of stuff. And it's when Tua's there, they move the ball. So everyone should just chill out here, right? McDaniel, he's a hipster. It is what it is. But they do move the ball when Tua's there. And great point, Rob. They're not hurt yet. And you're playing the Colts and you're underdogs here. So I agree. Wetzel, you're the Dolphin fan, but I agree with Rowan on the Dolphins plus 1.5 in this game.
How about Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay laying 1.5 on the road against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I do understand why this is a bit of a tough one, because that those division dogs in week 1 tend to cover at a pretty high rate, but you're looking at close to a pick'em price here. And this is, again, a situation where I just think the Bucs are, in a slightly better spot, especially in week 1. There are a couple guys that they're waiting to get better, Wirfs, Godwin. But you look at the Falcons, and there is going to be a learning curve with Penix there. It's not going to happen from week 1. There's going to be a big learning curve with that defense. Right now, I don't think that defense is quality defense at all. If some of those rookies start to, improve over the course of the season, James Pierce, Walker, etc., that defense could be pretty good maybe by the end of the year. But week 1, I don't think they're going to be able to handle the Bucs and the offensive firepower they have. So, yeah, give me Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to win what, could be a close one, but I think they pull away and cover the small spread here.
Mm-hmm. Got some interesting futures before we do maybe a teaser or two, including one that's going to pay 50-1, Defensive Player of the Year. Where are we going with that?
Kyle Hamilton, I think, it's one that a lot of people are sleeping on, and you look at who you think the top defensive players overall in the league are. And I think a lot of people do think of Hamilton as being, one of the elite defensive backs, definitely a top 10 overall defensive player. And you're getting him on one of the better defensive teams in the league. Second half of last season, Ravens were arguably the best defensive team in the league. He's also going to be taking on more of that Swiss Army knife role again. We saw last year he's playing a little bit more deep safety because they needed him to. But Starks is now in with that team, so he's going to be able to move around a lot. I think he's going to make a lot of splash plays. And if the Ravens have one of the top defenses in the league again, I think he's going to be one of the top guys for this award. So if it's not a big pass rusher getting a ton of sacks, I think Hamilton can really sneak in there and take Defensive Player of the Year. And paying out at plus 5,000, it's tough to turn that down.
All right. How about Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Another one where I'm swinging big. I mean, everyone's on Abdul Carter. I get that, but I also don't think there's any value in taking a rookie at plus 175 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year when any number of things could happen. He could get injured. He could be playing on a terrible Giants team where the other team's just running the ball on them. He could be rotating with Burns and Thibodeau a ton. So give me someone like Demetrius Knight instead. Demetrius Knight should be starting from week 1. He's going to be playing alongside a veteran in Logan Wilson. He's going to be in a spot to rack up a ton of stats because that Bengals defense is so bad. He's going to be on the field a lot. as long as he's making splash plays, I think he can make a really big impact on this team. And you're getting him at plus 8,000. So some pretty good value there. He played really well during training camp. Some gaps during the preseason. We saw some big plays ripped off against him because of a lack of discipline, really. But this is a 25-year-old rookie, really smart football IQ. And so I think he's going to be able to learn from those mistakes. And I think he's going to definitely make a lot of improvements over the course of the season.
Twins just tied the game. 4-4. The Twins just tied the Jays. In the 9th inning, they hit a home run.
Unbelievable.
Hoffman gives up the home run, so we got a 4. They were playing with fire the last couple innings. So they were plus 500 or whatever. Now we got a tie game. The Jays have been pretty good at bouncing back in these spots after they blow these leads, but we'll see what happens here. But I just want to update you guys. 4-4.
Yeah, that's all right. Still 5-3, looking for a few more runs out of the Philadelphia Phillies. We grab them plus the 2.5 runs. Although if it stays 5-3, that's perfectly fine.
They just tied the game, 5-5. They just tied it. See, right on cue.
Really?
I told you guys earlier. Take the Phillies plus 2.5. 5-5 right now.
Yep.
I even took them on the money line plus 525, guys. Say, hey, let's get this. Let's see if the Phillies can pull this off.
2-run homer somebody. I'm seeing it now.
Oh, yeah.
That's bullpen coming through. All right. Seattle and San Diego, you got to play on that one for us, Rohit?
Yeah, I'm just taking the under. They're pretty simple. I had the Brewers team total over earlier today. That cashed. I think they're up to 8 runs now. But, in the late night game, I've got the under 8 here. Castillo's been fantastic at home. Mariners' offense has really been suppressed when they're playing in that at home. And then you've got Dylan Cease, who I think is just one of those guys. His numbers have been bad, but his underlying metrics are pretty impressive. 3.50 expected ERA, expected batting average around 220. So I think both these teams are going to be, playing a little bit of a lower scoring one here at T-Mobile Field. So give me the under 8.
By the way, Ryan Helsley with the 2-run homer giving him up for the Mets. God, he has been just brutal as a New York Met.
Right on cue, baby.
Right on cue. Rohit, great job, man. Check out all his plays, covers.com. Thanks, Rohit.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Here's the irony with this group. They're going all in a row, 27, 28, 29, and 30 at wide receiver. All of these guys have a huge fantasy upside. They're all being drafted as wide receiver 3s, and I think all of them are going to outperform that ADP. Calvin Ridley could end up as a low-end 1, high-end 2. George Pickens, I think, is going to end up being a solid back-end wide receiver 2 at the end of the day.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course, we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers were playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If the Golden State Valkyries make the playoffs, and right now at 18-17, they're one game ahead of the loss column versus Seattle and the Spartans. If they make the playoffs, you must, and I mean must, give their coach head coach of the year in the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Game Day here on the Grid. Final segment, wrapping things up. Quick 2 hours here. We'll be back tomorrow. Then we got football Thursday, football Friday, and then obviously the weekend full slate of football as well. But yeah, back to that Bents game for a second, Gabe. Ryan Helsley, I don't know. Listen, he's not a flash in the pan. It's not like he's had just this 1 year with the Cardinals. He's been a pretty good reliever over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. But man, he's now been in 11 games since the Mets traded for him. He's given up runs in 7 of them. 7 of the 11. I mean, the Yankees got Devin Williams for their fans to have agita with, and then the Met fan has now Ryan Helsley, who's being taken out of the game right now. I mean, it's just like you can't bring the guy in. You just can't. So 5-5, you grab the Phillies plus the runs or the money line. You got a chance now to win that bet, or at least go the other way and hedge a little bit on the Metsies. So 5-1 stank still, bottom of the 8th inning. They're cruising along. You mentioned Twins and Blue Jays, 4-4, top of the 9th. Twinkies got a runner on second base with 1 out. Forget about the Astros. Boy, they're just deader than dead. 6-1, they trail at home to the Rockies. 6-1. And look at the Padres, 5-0. You called it. You like the over again tonight. You're looking off to a pretty good start. 5-0 in the first inning.
Castillo, Scott.
Castillo doesn't have it tonight, obviously.
I thought I had a good line off the top of the show, and I wasn't really a line per se, but when I said, yeah, his home road splits, he's better at home, but he hasn't really been that good at home. He's just terrible on the road. like you know what I mean? He's been out, like he's not that good this year. Let's just call it out for what it is. So, yeah, well, we did take Seattle tonight, so hopefully, we get the split here. But we got a 4-4 game. Jays bullpen causing him trouble. They just hit a guy. He got first and second now. But the Dodgers coming up. It's a little pricey. You can lay the 1.5 if you wanted with the Dodgers tonight. So it's your call, guys. But I'm playing the Dodgers to win. Scott, you've been playing the Dodger under, party basically for the last month. We got 9 tonight. And we talked about it, guys. Kershaw's been money. And Martinez can be hit, Scott, but the Dodgers don't hit him. It's one of these deals. It's kind of rare, actually. Normally, when you look at the Dodgers versus a pitcher, a couple of them light the guy up. Mookie Betts, 6 for 27. He's batting .222 in his career. Ohtani's 0 for 7 in his career against Martinez. Teoscar Hernandez, 2 for 8. Freddie Freeman, 2 for 11. Will Smith, 1 for 7. So, like you see, Scott, it's not like any one of the Dodgers has some big success against them or anything. I think the total's a little high at 9 because I think Kershaw is going to get it done for us. So I'm going to go under 9. I like the Dodgers to win. Give me the Mercury on the money line to beat the LA Sparks tonight. And Alyssa Thomas is up to minus 190 for a double-double right now. So it is a little pricey. And I'm going to stand my ground and not play the over right away, Scott. My gut tells me that this is not an automatic over, a 178. So I'm going to hold off and wait for the in-game, and I can play the in-game total.
If you got to go with Thomas, and I saw that, and it wasn't that high, but it was like 175, 180, something like that this afternoon. You might as well just do what I'm doing with her with the Black Cloud and play her over rebounds and points. Could she get 10 assists? Yeah, I suppose, but I'm counting her double-double to be rebounds, right, where she averages almost 9 and points. And if she gets a double-double, then that's 20 right there. You only need 4 more for her to get to 24. I'd rather take the chance at much less odds of her getting 24 points and rebounds, because she could go for 16, 17 points and maybe only 8 rebounds. I don't think there's realistically a way she gets a double-double and doesn't get to 24 points and rebounds. Whereas I could clearly see her getting to 24 points and rebounds, but maybe just not getting a double-double, like I said, maybe 7, 8, maybe 9 rebounds. So, and you don't have to lay a minus 190 with that bet either. So I like her points and rebounds more than I do the double-double.
We've got a parlay buster here. 7-4 Twins. Hoffman is blowing up. And I don't know what the hell Schneider is doing leaving him in, because it was obvious. He was hitting guys were getting on. And finally, you get a three-run shot. 7-4 Twins right now. Another big comeback, guys. They were like plus 550 on the money line when I said they were down 1 run. It's crazy. The odds makers just give these massive numbers. It's wild.
Nuts. I tell you, put them, your anti-public parlay, Colorado, Washington would have been in there, and then Minnesota. I love Toronto tonight. I really did. And two of those three are in position to lose. Unbelievable. Anything on Cubs and Giants? I'm going with Thunder, Cubbies and Giants.
I played the Cubs. In this game. I didn't play the total, Scott, but sets up nicely for a Cub win tonight.
All right, Gabe and I'll be back tomorrow night. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, folks. Be safe and let's make some money.